September 7th, 1936, Hobart Zoo, Tasmania. A zookeeper finishes his evening rounds and heads home. He's tired. It's been a long day. He forgets to unlock the door to Benjamin's sleeping shelter. Benjamin is a thylacine, the last Tasmanian tiger on Earth. The zookeeper knows this, everyone knows this, but he forgets anyway. That night, temperatures drop below freezing. Benjamin paces outside his locked shelter. He can't get warm. He can't get inside. By morning, he's dead. Hypothermia. The last thylacine on Earth died because somebody forgot to open a door. Not malice, not hunting, not habitat destruction. Forgetfulness. This isn't the only time we've done this. It's not even the worst example. What you're about to see are 5 species that didn't die because we hunted them or because we destroyed their habitat, though we did those things too. They died because, at the critical moment when intervention could have saved them, we forgot about them. We got distracted. We prioritized other things. We assumed someone else was handling it. And while we were looking the other way, they went extinct. These aren't stories of evil. They're stories of negligence. And negligence, it turns out, is just as deadly. Segment 1. The Thylacine, 1936. Forgot to open the door. Let's start with Benjamin, because his death is almost too absurd to believe. The thylacine, Tasmanian tiger, was a marsupial carnivore that looked like a dog with tiger stripes and a kangaroo's pouch. By 1930, everyone knew they were critically endangered. The last confirmed wild thylacine had been shot in 1930. Benjamin, captured in 1933, was believed to be the last one anywhere. He lived at Hobart Zoo in Tasmania. Small concrete enclosure, a sleeping den with a door, fed regularly, observed occasionally. The zoo knew what they had. Scientists knew. The Tasmanian government knew. But here's what happened. The zoo was underfunded. Staff was minimal. Benjamin's keeper was overworked and underpaid. September 7th, 1936 was cold, below freezing, unusual for Tasmania. During his evening rounds, the keeper was supposed to check that Benjamin could access his heated sleeping shelter. He didn't. Maybe he forgot. Maybe he assumed someone else had done it. Maybe he was exhausted and just wanted to go home. The door to Benjamin's den was locked. Benjamin spent the night on concrete, exposed to freezing wind. By morning, he was dead. The keeper found him, reported it. There was a brief mention in the local newspaper, "Last Tasmanian tiger dies." No investigation, no consequences. The keeper wasn't fired. Nobody was held accountable, because it was an accident, a mistake. Negligence, not murder. But here's what haunts me. This was the last one. Everyone knew. The zoo had been receiving inquiries from scientists and international zoos offering to take Benjamin, to breed him if any females could be found, to at least preserve his genetics. The zoo said no. We're taking care of him. And then they forgot to open a door. What makes this forgetting rather than malice? There was no intent to harm. The keeper wasn't cruel. The zoo wasn't deliberately killing Benjamin. They just stopped paying attention, stopped checking, stopped treating him like the irreplaceable genetic treasure he was. They forgot that every single action or inaction mattered when you're dealing with the last of a species. The footage you're seeing, this is 1933 film of Benjamin, taken 3 years before his death. Watch how he paces. Watch how he yawns, jaw opening impossibly wide. Watch how he looks at the camera. He's curious, he's bored, he's waiting. Every frame of this footage is now extinct. These movements, these behaviors, this exact genetic expression, gone because someone forgot to open a door. Segment 2. The golden toad, 1989. Forgot to monitor the population. Monteverde Cloud Forest, Costa Rica, 1987. The golden toad is impossible to miss. Bright orange, almost neon. toxic coloring warning predators. They exist in only 4 square kilometers of cloud forest, but within that tiny range, they're abundant. Every year during the breeding season, thousands of golden toads emerge. Males outnumber females 10 to 1. They compete, wrestle, call. It's a spectacle. Herpetologist J. Savage first described them in 1966. He returns annually to study them. 1987. He counts approximately 1,500 toads during breeding season. A good year. 1988. He counts 10 toads. 10. 1989. He finds 1. A single male, calling alone. 1990. 0. None. Extinct. What happened? Climate change? El Niño? Drought? The cloud forest dried out just enough that a chytrid fungus, which thrives in specific temperature and humidity conditions, could spread. The fungus attacked the toad's permeable skin. They couldn't breathe through it. They suffocated. But here's the forgetting part. Between 1987 and 1988, the golden toad population crashed by 99%, and nobody noticed until it was too late. Why? Because monitoring was annual, once per year during breeding season. Savage came in May 1987, saw 1,500 toads, left. He returned in May 1988, found 10 toads. Panic. He returned in May 1989, found 1. But the extinction happened between May 1987 and May 1988, 12 months. And for those 12 months, nobody was watching. Nobody was checking on them in June, July, August, the dry season when the fungus spread. By the time Savage realized something was catastrophically wrong, it was already over. Here's what makes this forgetting. It wasn't malicious. Savage was a dedicated scientist. He cared deeply about golden toads. But he was one person, underfunded, overworked, studying multiple species across hundreds of square kilometers. He couldn't monitor golden toads year-round. Nobody could. There wasn't funding for it. There wasn't institutional support. So the golden toad was checked on once per year. And during the other 364 days, they went extinct. The lesson: extinction doesn't wait for your monitoring schedule. The golden toad became the first species officially linked to climate change-driven extinction. But it didn't die because of climate change alone. It died because climate change created conditions for fungal spread, and nobody noticed until the population had crashed past recovery. We forgot to check on them at the moment it mattered most. The photographs you're seeing. These are Savage's 1987 photos. Look at that color. That impossible orange, like something from another planet. This is one of the last photos of golden toads in their natural habitat. 1 year later, almost all of them were dead. And nobody knew until the breeding season, when they didn't show up. Segment 3. The Po'uli, 2004. Forgot to act until it was too late. Maui, Hawaii, 1973. University of Hawaii students discover a new bird species in remote cloud forest. Small, brown, with a black face mask. They name it Po'uli, black-faced in Hawaiian. This is remarkable, discovering a new bird species in 1973 in the United States. It's also tragic. By the time we discovered them, they were already nearly extinct. Initial surveys estimate there are 150 Po'uli in 6 square kilometers of forest. But that forest is already degraded. Invasive pigs root up understory. Invasive rats eat eggs. Invasive mosquitoes spread avian malaria. The Po'uli population begins declining immediately after discovery. Here's the timeline. 1975. 120 individuals estimated. 1980, 76 individuals. 1985, 40 individuals. 1990, 20 individuals. 1995, 8 individuals. Scientists watching this decline know what's happening. They know intervention is needed. But intervention requires permits. Permits require environmental impact studies. Studies require funding. Funding requires grant applications. Applications require approval. The bureaucracy moves slowly. By 1997, only 3 po'uli remain, all in separate territories. They never encounter each other. Scientists finally get approval for intervention. Capture the birds, bring them together, attempt captive breeding. 2002. They attempt to capture bird number 1. It evades them. 2004. They capture bird number 2, a male. He's weak. He dies of avian malaria within hours of capture. Bird number 1 and bird number 3 are never seen again. 2004. Po'uli declared functionally extinct. Officially extinct in 2011. Here's the forgetting. Nobody forgot the po'uli existed. Scientists monitored them. Papers were published. Everyone knew they were declining. What we forgot, or rather, what we failed to prioritize, was urgency. We treated the po'uli like we had time, like bureaucratic processes could unfold at normal pace, like permits and studies and approvals could take years because the birds would still be there when we were ready. They weren't. By the time we acted, it was too late. The population was too small. The individuals were too sick. The genetic diversity was gone. We didn't forget about them. We forgot that time was running out. The photograph you're seeing, this is bird number 2, the male captured in 2004, hours before his death. He's in the hands of a biologist. He looks weak, stressed. This is one of the last clear photographs of a po'uli. Within hours, he was dead. The other 2 were never photographed, never captured, never seen again. They vanished into the forest while scientists were still filling out paperwork. Segment 4. The Pyrenean ibex, 2000. Forgot to establish a backup population. Spanish Pyrenees, January 6, 2000. A researcher photographs Celia, the last Pyrenean ibex, navigating rocky cliffs. She looks healthy, strong, perfectly adapted to her mountain environment. Hours later, she's found dead, crushed by a fallen tree. The Pyrenean ibex, a subspecies of Spanish ibex, survived the Ice Age. They thrived for thousands of years in the Pyrenees Mountains between Spain and France. By the 1990s, their population was collapsing. Hunting, disease, competition with domestic livestock. By 1999, only 2 remained, Celia and 1 male. The male died in 1999. Celia was alone, the last one. Everyone knew. Scientists monitored her, tracked her movements, photographed her regularly. But here's what they didn't do. They didn't capture her. They didn't bring her into captivity where she could be protected from accidents. They didn't establish a captive breeding program when there were still dozens of ibex alive. They waited. They observed. They assumed they had time. And then a tree fell. Here's the forgetting part. Spanish scientists weren't incompetent. They knew Pyrenean ibex were endangered. They'd been studying them for decades. But there was always a reason to wait. Let's do one more study on their habitat needs. Let's apply for funding for a captive breeding facility. Let's see if we can find any other individuals we missed. Meanwhile, the population kept shrinking. By the time they decided intervention was urgent, there were only 2 left. And then 1. And then 0. The cloning attempt. In 2003, scientists used tissue samples from Celia's frozen body to clone her. It worked. For 7 minutes. A cloned Pyrenean ibex was born alive. It breathed. It moved. Then it died of lung defects. a common problem with cloning. The Pyrenean ibex went extinct twice. Once in 2000, when Celia died. Again in 2003, when the clone died. What we forgot? We forgot that studying endangered species isn't the same as saving them. We forgot that observing decline isn't intervention. We forgot that every day we wait, the options narrow. When there were 100 Pyrenean ibex, captive breeding would have been easy. When there were 10, it would have been challenging but possible. When there were 2, it was nearly impossible. When there was 1, it was too late. We didn't forget Celia existed. We forgot to act while action still mattered. Segment 5. The Dusky Seaside Sparrow, 1987. Forgot to prioritize conservation over development. Florida, 1987. This is orange band. A small, unremarkable-looking brown bird with an orange band on his leg for identification. He's the last dusky seaside sparrow on Earth. He lives at Discovery Island, a Disney-owned conservation facility. He's well cared for, fed daily, monitored constantly. He's also completely alone. The last female dusky seaside sparrow died in 1981. For 6 years, orange band has been the last of his kind. On June 17, 1987, orange band dies of old age. The dusky seaside sparrow is extinct. So what went wrong? The dusky seaside sparrow lived exclusively in the salt marshes around Merritt Island, Florida, right next to Cape Canaveral. In the 1950s and 60s, NASA was building the Kennedy Space Center. Marshes were drained, roads were built, habitats were flooded with fresh water, killing salt marsh vegetation. But the bigger threat was DDT. To control mosquitoes around the Space Center, marshes were sprayed heavily with DDT. The pesticide poisoned the food chain. Sparrows ate poisoned insects. They died. By 1972, only 70 dusky seaside sparrows remained. Scientists knew this. Conservation plans were proposed. Protected areas were suggested. But NASA's mission took priority. The space program was too important, too expensive, too high profile. The sparrows could wait. By 1979, only 6 dusky seaside sparrows remained, all males. Scientists finally initiated a desperate plan. Crossbreed them with closely related Scots seaside sparrows. Create hybrids with some dusky genetics. Better than total extinction. They tried. The males were too old. Breeding failed. By 1983, only orange band remained. What we forgot, or rather what we chose to deprioritize, was that conservation can't wait until it's convenient. We chose rocket launches over sparrows. Maybe that was necessary. Maybe space exploration is worth more than one subspecies of sparrow. But the dusky seaside sparrow didn't go extinct because saving them was impossible. They went extinct because we forgot that once a population drops below a critical threshold, no amount of money or effort can bring them back. The photograph you're seeing, orange band, one day before his death. Small, brown, unremarkable, but genetically unique. When his heart stopped, thousands of years of evolution ended, and we let it happen because we were too busy building rockets. 5 different failures, but one common thread: we didn't forget they existed. We forgot to treat their extinction as urgent until it was too late. Benjamin died because someone forgot to open a door. But the real forgetting was treating the last thylacine like any other zoo animal. The golden toad died because nobody checked on them year-round. But the real forgetting was assuming once-a-year monitoring was sufficient. The pauli died while scientists processed permits, but the real forgetting was treating bureaucracy as more important than survival. Celia died from a falling tree, but the real forgetting was waiting to intervene until only one remained. The dusky seaside sparrow died because NASA needed marshland. But the real forgetting was assuming we could save them later, after the important work was done. Here's what unites all these extinctions. They were preventable. Not easy to prevent, but possible. If Benjamin's keeper had checked the shelter door, if someone had monitored golden toads monthly instead of annually, if bureaucrats had fast-tracked Pouli permits, if scientists had captured Pyrenean ibex when dozens remained, if NASA had protected even a small section of marsh, any of these actions could have changed the outcome. But we forgot. We got distracted. We assumed tomorrow would be soon enough, and 5 species vanished while we weren't paying attention. The lesson isn't that we're evil, it's that we're human. We forget, we procrastinate, we assume someone else is handling it. But extinction doesn't wait for us to remember. Right now, there are species: vaquita, northern white rhino, Javan rhino, in the exact same situation as these 5. We know they're dying. We know what needs to be done. The question is, will we forget about them too? Or will we finally remember before it's too late? If this video changed your perspective, subscribe. Next week, 5 animals going extinct right now that we can still save. The Extinction Archive isn't just about remembering the dead. It's about not forgetting the living.